Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the first episode, which is not the episode we're talking about today, but I thought this was worth bringing up. The first episode originally aired on January 3rd, 1993, which was my eighth birthday. It originally aired on my eighth birthday, and I spent my eighth birthday watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine because
Fucking
I was
nerd.
just that cool of a kid, folks. Greetings, Ferengi. Welcome to episode 29 of the Lasercomb Podcast, the weekly show where we comb through random episodes of classic TV shows with a fine-tooth laser. I am Lieutenant Commander Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm head security superintendent NeoCal.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it's a hard position to fill. The name tag's like really long. You don't want it.
Yeah. It's like two or three name tags stacked on top of one another. Eventually, it starts to look like military decoration.
But then you get close and you realize you're just like the middle management for security.
Yeah, not a good place to be.
Not glamorous. No.
This week on the Lasercomb Podcast, we are continuing on our Star Trek themed month, where we cover a random episode of every single classic Star Trek series in order of release. And this week we are talking about the 134th overall episode of Star Trek the Deep Space Nine.
Star Trek, the Deep Space, where no Ferengi has gone before.
Oh God, what did I refer to Deep Space Nine as on Discord the other day? It was Space Station 9 in space. No, Space Station 9 in space or something like that. Space Station 9 in deep space.
In deep space. Space Station 9 in deep space.
There we go. Space Station 9 in deep space. Episode 134 overall of Star Trek DS9. It is the 10th episode of season 6, The Magnificent Ferengi. Originally aired on December 29th, 1997. The name of the title, or the title of the episode didn't really occur to me when I was looking at the episode list. When we rolled this episode on the last podcast. But after watching the episode, it makes a whole lot of sense because this is one big Western homage, specifically a Magnificent Seven or like Dirty Dozen type story.
I was going to ask you if you thought it was like a Magnificent Seven kind of deal.
With them like recruiting like this ragtag team of reluctant adventurers to go on this mission. Star Trek Deep Space Nine was the technically the fourth because there was the Star Trek the animated series, which is considered like kind of quasi canon. But Star Trek Deep Space
Nine. How did I not know that, or did I know it existed and it just left my mind?
I think I have mentioned it before, so I don't know. Who can say?
Who can say?
But Deep Space Nine was the third live action Star Trek series to be released. It aired concurrently with the later seasons of Star Trek The Next Generation and with the early seasons of Star Trek Voyager.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They were
overlapping. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, even the first episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine featured a cameo by Patrick Stewart as Captain Jean-Luc Picard. And I believe characters in Voyager, as Voyager went on, they started finding like more and more cute ways of having guest stars from other shows on there. And it was like, oh, we're doing some sort of like subspace like thing so we can have a like live interactive hologram of like Reg Barclay like hanging out on the ship and like shit like that. They because the plot of that
Voyager.
The plot of that show was they were lost like 70 like million light years or something
in the Sigma quadrant,
in the off in the Delta quadrant. So they were trying to find their way home. But to get more and more guest stars from past Star Trek shows,
You
they
had to bend some space and time rules.
space and time rule. Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it ended up becoming my least favorite Star Trek series.
and that's
Uh,
saying something because the other ones people hate a lot for
a lot,
I
yeah,
don't get why.
a lot of people hate Voyager and hate Enterprise, and I actually really like both of them.
Yeah. I haven't watched a lot of Enterprise. I should go check it out.
Well,
But like,
we're gonna get to it in two
oh, we're
weeks
gonna
here.
get there. But yeah, I think we've already mentioned this in the beginning of Star Trek month, but Voyager was my favorite because it's the one I watched most of, and it's
Mm.
also kind of like the drunk cousin of Star Trek, like because
Voyager
they're. It's hard to describe why I like Voyager.
Voyager also had a lot of like Borg shenanigans going on, and
Yeah,
uh,
which I'm a fan of. Yeah,
being a kid into sci-fi in the 1990s, like we all fucking love the Borg, and so
right. Of course you do.
yeah, yeah. One of the reasons why Star Trek First Contact is one of the coolest movies, and I just have revisited most of them recently, and it's still one of my favorites. The
But we're
fucking
not dealing
Borg.
with the Borg today.
Sounds Swedish.
Fucking Borg.
Fuckity Borg.
Fuckity Borg. It's like a desk, but it's also a dresser.
Yeah,
Takes like 11 man hours to put together.
it's
Don't worry
like
about
it's like
it.
space IKEA.
Yeah, space IKEA. Fuckity Borg.
Space Kia, fuckity Borg.
You could buy your own like space shuttle, right? It's like cheaper, but like, man, it's gonna take you months to put that thing together. Heaven forbid you lose any pieces.
Yeah, and then you're like you follow the directions to the letter, which are just these really like abstract, like minimalist
Klingon runes.
pictures, pictures, and you end up putting it together wrong, and the thing doesn't even fucking work. And you're like, wow, I have all these extra pieces.
Uh-oh. Or worse, it does work, but you still have the extra pieces. Uh-oh.
Like, we'll blow up in that warp reactor breach when we come to it.
Something will happen, and when it does, what are you gonna do, man?
Yeah. So this episode of Deep Space Nine opens in Quark's bar, and Quark is all he's all excited because he just negotiated this deal for this like what is it? Like what do they call it? Like squill syrup?
Yeah.
Yeah, squill syrup. And he's all like bragging about it, and they're like, "Oh, well, there was this drought, so there was this big shortage of squill syrup." And he's like,
Nobody could get it.
nobody could get it. And he's like, "Ah, but it turns out there is no drought, and I figured this out because I saw the like accounting minister or whatever buying really expensive rain boots." And they're like, "But why would he be buying rain boots if there's
Ferengi rain boots.
why would he be buying rain boots if there was a drought?" And he's like, exactly. So
Exactly.
so he gives this really like
It's
comical
like a war hero, like recounting like a
yeah
story. And I'm like, oh, the Ferengi like war hero stories are like,
are them like bartering and brokering deals because
yeah, like
that's
epic like heroes of Ferengi past are like merchants that like traveled like the equivalent of the Silk Road, right? And,
exactly, yeah.
yeah,
And so
I dig it.
Quark ends up basically doing a in Spaceballs where Dark Helmet is like, before you die, there is something you should know about us, Lone Star. I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate. And he gives this, and Quark gives this really like long, like convoluted, like 6 degrees of separation of like
Oh,
how he was able to actually like talk to this and blackmail this finance minister. And so he goes to
because
this
they were connected from like you said, like 6 degrees of separation
Yeah, yeah,
somehow, and he managed to get
yeah,
a few more than a few cases of it.
yeah. He got 3 cases of it specifically,
And then everybody clapped,
and
except they
then
do.
except they do. But here's the thing: he was able to he was able to blackmail this person by saying, "Hey, I know there's actually no drought, and you are just withholding this stuff to create false scarcity to drive up the price. Uh, if you don't give me these 3 cases, then I'm going to tell everyone about it, and you'll be finished." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." But now you're telling an entire
But now
bar.
you just told everyone in the bar.
You're telling an entire bar full of people about this like false scarcity is like complete bullshit. So I'm like, okay,
And he's like, haha, and then he gave them to me.
yeah,
And all I had to do was agree to never tell anybody.
yeah.
Wait.
Breaking the first rule of Fight Club here. And so Quark is all like basking in his own glory, and people are all like, "Yeah, Quark." Everybody gets sidetracked though because there's who is it? Dr. Bashir and someone else. I can't
Some
remember.
Starfleet people.
A couple main cast members show back up and they're like start talking about like some adventure that they just went on, and everyone's all like, "Oh, so exciting." And Quark is Odo shows up and Quark is like, "Man, what's wrong with these people?" And Odo's like, "Well, they're war heroes. People want to hear about that." And Quark's like, "But look at what I just did. Like, come on." So then we
That's enough out of you, Quark. I've
uh,
got my eye on you.
so then Quark gets a transmission from the Grand Nagus, which is the like basically the emperor of the Ferengi. And
Like
see,
personally being like, hey, I have a job for you.
your mom has been kidnapped, and I need you to go save her.
I don't
And
care how you do it.
and
Here's
he's
50 Latinum.
50 bars of gold-plated latinum, and I'm like, it's his mom. I mean, like you still you gotta pay him to go save his own mom, whom he seems to love.
I Yeah, but she's also someone important to the Grand Magus.
Uh,
Magus.
and we'll find out not in not too long.
Mm-hmm.
So Quark goes to his brother Rom. I always get Rom and his son Nog. Nog's the son, right? Yeah, Rom. I always get them mixed up. So he goes to his brother Rom and is like, "Hey, we've been I was contacted by the Grand Magus, and he wants us to go and do this. And there's 50 gold bars of gold-plated latinum in it for us." He's like, "Oh, okay. Why would he want us to go and do this?" And he's like, "Well, because it's our mom who was kidnapped." And he's like, "Oh." And so a bunch of there's an extended sequence of them like climbing through Jeffrey's tubes and
Okay. When did this become a thing, man? I gotta stop and be like, they have
okay,
this awkward conversation climbing through these Jeffries tubes to the point where it seems like they're acknowledging their own trope. I thought they were trying to sneak somewhere, right?
yeah,
And they actually exit at one point into the quarters of
Captain Cisco,
Cisco.
yeah.
And Cisco's sitting there, like, brooding like he always does. And he spins in his chair and he's like, can I help you? And they're like leaning out of this like ventilation, like Jeffrey tube. And they're like, oh, we took a wrong turn. And they like close it and then like crawl back. And I'm like, wait, why are they even in there?
I'm not entirely sure, even
Is
after
this like
watching
the
the
only
episode.
only private place to talk? And at this point, they know it's a meme. They've got to. They're just memeing on us because there's no reason they can't just go and sit down somewhere and talk. I thought I'm
And
saying it's funny. I'm not dissing
yeah,
it because of that, but it's just
it wouldn't surprise me because this is a very like lighthearted episode despite the subject matter.
yeah.
Um, so Quark explains to his brother that that their mom has been kidnapped by the Dominion, and the Grand Nagus wants them to go save her. And Rom is like, "Well, how was she kidnapped by the Dominion?" And he's like, "Oh, she was on a transport ship." And he's like, "What? She's a female?
She's a
How,
female. How could she possibly transport off of planet?
off of Ferengidar or something like?"
Ferengadara. Brother, can't you do it without me? Um,
And, and so, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, the Grand Magus let her go do it. She wanted to go get her earlobes lifted, which plastic surgery." And he's like,
yeah.
"Oh well, the Grand Magus is very generous that way." And he's
And
like,
he
"But
looks,
wait,
yeah, Quark like looks at his brother and he's like, Rom,
something I gotta
she,
tell you."
yeah, he's not just generous. He's mom means something special to the Magus, and well, there's no easy way to say this, but they're fucking, they're fucking Rom. Our mom's fucking the Grand Magus.
Oh, sorry,
What?
I'm wrong. It's Grand Nagus, not
Oh, is
Magus.
it Nagus?
Yeah, yeah.
The Grand Magnus. The Magnus Ferungar.
You know what? There's a doom metal band named Grand Nagus. So that's I was probably conflating that in my head.
I'll forget in one day anyway. The Emperor
Yeah, yeah, the Grand Nagus. And so
or Quad.
they so they need to go off on this adventure and they need to start recruiting people to do it. And
And
the
who
first
better to recruit than a child?
so they recruit Quark's nephew Nog, who is a Starfleet officer at this point. He's like an enlisted, he's like an ensign or something like that, but he like is working in securities.
Yeah,
And
when
they're
they introduce him, like the character's age as the seasons go, and I'm like, whoa, he's old
yeah,
enough to cool. Because
to
like
go
I
through
haven't
the
watched
academy.
all of it, so I wasn't aware that he joined Starfleet. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so they tell him about the plan, and he's like, "Well, I why would I want to help with it? Like, what I have duties." And he's like, "Well, you could be the security chief of the mission." And he's like, you mean like Commander Worf?" And they're like, "Exactly like Commander
Exactly
Worf."
like Commander Worf.
And he's like, "Okay, okay, I'm in."
Yeah, he's like, well, how many people do you have for the mission so far? Well, so far, two. And then Nog is like, make that three. Yeah. This episode is like so corny, and it's like you said, Magnificent Seven. There's an air of comedy like to it, despite the stakes being extremely high. Man, this is not my experience with Deep Space Nine.
No,
Boy,
not at
howdy.
all.
I really, man, we have been rolling well for these
So far,
episodes
yeah.
because I don't know if anybody listening to this could tell, but like I really dig this episode, and it hasn't even started yet.
Yeah,
This,
yeah.
this is
The
great.
plot's only barely moving. Has only barely gotten going at this point. So they call up some dude whose name I can't remember. I'm just gonna call him the assassin.
He's the assassin.
They call up the
They,
assassin.
they call him up. Is this a secure line? Good, good. And when he comes up on vid window, he's fucking sharpening a dagger. And his brother, who he's like, oh,
Which I this episode being the called the Magnificent Ferengi, and this is very much a Magnificent Seven type story of
yeah.
like a ragtag group of people coming together. Uh, uh, the sharpening the knife is very much a Western trope.
Oh yeah.
When you
Whetstone,
introduce,
spit on it, and you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got a knife going.
When you're introducing a tough guy in a western, like that's very much a trope of them sharpening a knife. So they're leaning
Even though
into
they're gonna be using guns. Yeah.
yeah. So they're very much leaning into the western themes here with this episode, and
His
I
name's
love
Lucky?
western. I
Lek.
love
Lek.
Lek. Okay, I love westerns, so I'm here for it. Especially the Magnificent Seven. It's a great movie. The
Yeah.
original, the remake that came out about 5 or 6 years ago wasn't so great, but
I never saw it. And I
you
might
don't you
not.
don't need to. That original is great though.
I have seen the original a couple times. Um
I own it
what
on
I like
Blu-ray.
what I like about Lek and Quark is he's all like, there's blah 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 platinum it or latinum in it for you if you want. And he's like, I don't care about that. And he's all like, I work solo anyway, but he doesn't hang up.
Yeah.
And Quark was like, well, this is actually like a big challenge. And like I know
How
you
big?
like
How big
challenges.
of a challenge? We're going up against the Dominion, and he's like, "Oh,
Ooh.
that does sound like a challenge." Uh,
I'm in. And then he just hangs up.
so then yeah, so he hangs up, and then they recruit this other guy who was like he was like a former weapons dealer.
Oh, the guy that's currently in prison in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go up and he's like, "Oh, long time cousin." I think they all call each other cousin. All the Ferengi do,
Uh,
but
I
maybe
think
this is actually his cousin.
this guy, and I think the guy who ends up giving him, who ends up lending them their ship later on, that we'll meet in not too long. I think they are related to Quark,
Okay, so they actually are all kind of extended family.
but I don't think the assassin guy is related to any of them.
No,
Um,
that would make him the only one that's not. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And what the guy in jail is like, when I get out of here, I'm gonna like wrap your intestines around you, Quark, and like choke you and make you die 5 times before you hit the ground. And then he tells the guard, "Oh, lower the force field." And he's like, "Huh? What's the meaning of this?" And Quark plays like tough, and he like grabs him, and he's all like, "Huh? What are you gonna do to me?" "Well, tell me."
yeah.
And
That's
then
right.
Nog's like, "He paid your bail. Megatron will reward you." Like, his fucking brother, man.
A reference to our Beast Wars podcast. Too much energon.
And he ends up coming along because even though he was in jail because of Quark, he's all like, "Hey, I paid your bail. I settled things, and I'm
Plus,
gonna give you some latinum
plus, there's 20 gold bars
to
of
split
latinum
amongst all of
to
us."
split amongst all of us. So here, Quark's already lying because it was 50. It's actually 50, and this
Well,
will
he
become a.
initially told his brother it was 50. We
Uh,
don't know what the Grand Nagus actually said to him because it was kind of implied off screen.
I uh, the impression that I get in this episode is that it is 50, and
It is 50.
Quark's a shrewd businessman.
And he's telling everybody that it's 20 and they just need a ship.
Yeah,
And so
and
this ragtag crew is like hanging out at the bar after hours.
it was at this moment that I started getting like heavy like Magnificent Seven
When
vibes
they were
from
hanging
this.
out at the bar.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's when I was like, wait, wait a second. I understand why this is titled this way.
yeah. Um, and uh, so they're like the assassin guy doesn't like the rest of them, and like he calls them idiots and shit like that. And
One particular guy, for some reason, they really don't like, a guy that just walks in out of nowhere into the conversation. Do you
he
remember that
said,
guy?
yeah, he says he's a liquidator, but they don't elaborate on what that is at all, but except to
But
say
nobody
that,
likes it. It's
but
like,
no,
we don't
but
like each other, but no Ferengi likes a liquidator. Even like Nog is shit talking this guy, and he's like 15. And then he's like, "Oh, I guess I'll just take my ship and like move on then." And oh my god, this is how you know it's a Western. Man, this is when I knew I loved this episode.
because
As
right
he's
before
leaving,
because right before that, they're like they're like okay, so we need a plan, but first thing we need a ship, and Quark's like ship, uh and the assassins guy's like, you don't have a ship, and he's like, no, but we'll get
get
one, you know.
one. And then
Well,
they're like, Nog is like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And we need to like do this. And they're like, we're not calling you sir. And Nog almost walks off because he's not getting like respect as the security, like
right.
chief strategist. Right. And like they're all bickering. And it's just like, well, what about a ship? You can't even do this if we don't have a ship. I said we'll find a ship.
And the liquidator guy, they're like, no, we don't want anything to do with you. And the liquidator guy is like, well, I all right then. I guess I'll just walk away and leave on my ship. And
My
they're like,
ship that I came here with, I guess I'll just go, like take my ship that I own away. And as he's walking, Lek, the assassin, fuck man, whips his like dagger across the bar right beside the liquidator, and it embeds in the wall beside him to get his attention. And he turns around and
right.
it's all like, welcome aboard. And they and he's part of the crew. He's the only one that they didn't have to like twist. Like
Yeah.
they didn't go to him. He asked to do it, and I'm not sure why, to gain some Ferengi cred back.
It's explained in dialogue that he is a disgrace. Not only is he a liquidator, he's also a disgraced liquidator, and so Quark is like, you feel like doing this mission will put you back into good favor with the Grand Nagus, and you can get your old job back.
Right,
Right?
right.
Yeah, yeah. And he's like, exactly. When do we leave?
Yeah, so he strong arms it, and that would. It's like, hey, I was part of that mission that got your bitch back.
So there's this holodeck training sequence
Oh my.
with them like failing horribly at like trying to be like this assault team.
So what happens is the holodeck mission is it's in a tunnel.
Yeah.
I can't remember the race, but two Dominion, the reptilian like race that just follow orders. They're the muscle of the Dominion. They look like dragon people. The three of them come out and they just stand still.
Yeah.
They're literally just standing still, and there's a hologram of their mom,
The
Moogie,
Dominion's Gem Hadar
Jem
soldiers.
Hadar. There we go. Yeah, and they're just standing still, and they all jump out, and they like try to shoot moving targets that aren't even shooting back at them. One of them screams and runs away. One of them shoots 5 times and misses. One of them drops their gun.
Yeah.
The only one that gets any hits in is the assassin, and he pops up and he shoots Moogie in the fucking heart and kills her. And then Nog comes out and he's like, free simulation. This is the 6th time. So we find out they've been doing this, and he's like, what is going on?
I think he
know
I think
it's
he
a
said it was
simulation.
I think he said it was the 8th.
Oh, right? And they're like, and the only one to hit anybody was you, Lek. Why did you shoot Moogie? We're supposed to save her. And he's like, well, at this point, I thought we were definitely going to lose, so I wanted to spare her from being tortured. I, 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 you're not. I guess you're not wrong. I mean, I wouldn't want to be tortured by the Dominion either. So, but I mean, maybe shoot the other guys before.
I mean, if this is their 8th time going through it,
So
this guy is like, we're never gonna win with these fucking idiots.
He just executes Mookie. Fuck. And so despite the fact they know it's a simulation and it's like the 8th time they've been doing this, this isn't going to happen. Ferengi are not.
They're not soldiers.
They're not soldiers. They're not like humans that can be conditioned to switch off their compassion and their fear modules in order to fight. or other races, they value life, particularly their own, a whole bunch.
You know what? I'm with there with them.
And so it's like, okay, we're gonna have to think to our
Y-
strengths here.
Yeah, so their brain, because they end up leaving the simulation and they're kind of brainstorming, and I think it's Rom is
Yeah,
like,
actually.
yeah, Rom, who is kind of depicted as being this like complete mook, this like complete
He's
idiot.
a complete dummy, huh? But every time there's an episode that focuses on the Ferengi, it's always him. It's always Rom that actually has the bigger ideas.
Right.
But it's like a Three Stooges skit where, like Mo steals one of the ideas from the other, and he's like, "That's a stupid idea. What we should do is this." And then it
Hmm.
just says the same thing but slightly differently. Oh yeah, you're right. That is a good idea. No, I actually feel like Quark does value Nog and
I mean,
appreciates him.
I mean, he keeps him around for some reason,
Yeah.
so he must have his reasons.
Yep.
So yeah, so he figures that he's like, yeah, we're Ferengi, we're not like we're not a strike force, like we're not like master tacticians, we're
We're not spec ops,
negotiators.
dog.
Yeah, yeah, we're not Call of Duty here. This is we're negotiators. We make bargains. We negotiate big deals.
Yeah, we're not big boss. We're not taking on we're not putting on war paint and taking out the enemy.
Yeah, yeah. We're not
And what do they do?
we're
Quark
not
ends up
we're
going to
not
Cisco.
we're not a team of solid snakes infiltrating Shadow Moses.
There you go.
Uh,
Have to remember what the boss taught me about CQC.
uh,
CQN, close quarters negotiations.
Actually, Solid Snake didn't know CQC because he never met the boss.
Solid Snake did not. Yeah.
Yeah. Although they kind of for Metal Gear Solid 4, they kind of were like, because MGS3 was a prequel, and like his like clone daddy Naked Snake knew CQC, so it's like CQC was a thing that had been established in the series at this point. So MGS4, it was like, oh, between the time of Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 4, Solid Snake just decided to take it upon himself to learn CQC, even though he's like a slowly like dying like old man clone.
When you're like 70 and you just decide to take up karate, whatever.
uh yeah.
You know who else is all 70? Well, at least maybe in Ferengi years. Moogie, mom. And
I looked up the actress. She was actually like my age, like mid to late 30s at this time. Tragically, she passed away in 2004 at the age of 46 of
oh,
severe lung cancer.
well, your contribution to one of the better episodes of Deep Space Nine,
Uh,
Space Station Nine, Deep Space, is
Space, Space Station 9 in deep space.
in deep space is welcomed because boy oh boy, when we do get to meet Moogie, what a fucking gem. I But I'm getting ahead of myself.
So they're like, okay, so if we need to do some negotiation, what are we gonna negotiate? And they're like, a prisoner with the Dominion, a prisoner exchange. Great. And so Major Kira, the one of the like, I think she's head of security, like head of
Yeah.
securities or operations or something on Deep Space Nine. She's like, here, you can have this Vorta prisoner of ours. And she's like, because I owe you one. And
I
I'm
guess
like,
he had rescued them from the Dominion at one point. She
yeah,
says so, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Which I'm like, I only really remember the early seasons of the show, and she kind of hated Quark. So This is a
Interesting how,
welcome change.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and Cisco is like, well, good luck with that.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Good luck with
He's like
that.
sneaking around and being like a sneaky snake is like one thing, but like you're not representing the Federation when you're out there, dude. So
Yeah. Um.
if you,
So
if shit goes wrong, that's not you're on your own.
we're in the shuttlecraft, and the gang's all here,
You're like,
and
wow, this is fucking cramped.
Quark brings this Vorta prisoner, who name I can't remember. Oh, I don't know. I'm just gonna call him the prisoner. Who cares?
I'll see it in a second, but
Uh,
boy, oh boy, do I like this guy.
I like this guy
Holy shit,
too.
he's got strong siege energy. You watched, did you skim or did you watch the episode?
Oh, I watched the episode.
When I'm watching this and he's all like, maybe death would be like, I'd be better off dead than having to like share this shuttle for a single more hour with all of you. I'm like, man, this guy's fucking great. I thought he was going to be like dangerous, and I'm like, oh, don't turn your back on him or like whatever. But he so that I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a great character.
Yeah, yeah.
I really like this character. But the thing is, he kind of wants it all to fail because he doesn't want to get handed back to the Dominion. Here,
Yeah.
he's a prisoner, but the Dominion will just torture him to death to figure out.
Well, and he mentions that he's like he doesn't want to go back because he's disgraced, because in Vorta culture, when you're captured, you're supposed to commit suicide. And he's like, I failed at the at commit at that just seemed a bit harsh. It's kind of what I'm paraphrasing, but he said something akin to it seemed a little harsh for me.
It seemed a little drastic.
Yeah.
Oh, and so like right away when they introduced the guy and like the actor Keevan,
Oh, Kivan. Okay.
yeah, and he's all like, "Hey, everybody, this is Keevan," and Rom is like, "Hey, I'm Rom, and this is my son Nog, and this is Lek," and Quark is like, "Yeah, he doesn't need to know all our names."
He doesn't care. And then Kivan is like, truer words have never been spoken.
This guy's like,
And
maybe I
then
spoke prematurely when I immediately was like, "This guy has big siege energy," but I meant that in the best way possible.
but then what ends up happening to him is actually like kind of horrifying. It's
Oh
comedic, but
my!
it's also kind of oh.
I feel I end up liking him, and I'm like, "Oh no, are we
Yeah.
weekend at Bernie's?" This
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't fucking. I almost spoiled it for you. I was like, "Is this Magnificent Seven meets Weekend at Bernie's?" Like the writers of this episode, thank you, thank you. You have made me actually appreciate Deep Space Nine and want to go and like watch it because that is when you take like the Ferengi off and you go do your own story that is like separate from the greater canon lore, you can take more liberties. Like with this episode, moi, chef's kiss. I don't know what. Give this guy an award or let him write his. You know what? I'm kind of fine with an entire show that's just these guys.
This ragtag group of Ferengi off flying adventures.
I I'd be okay with that.
Well, and indeed, I think we're one of the big criticisms that's always been levied against Deep Space Nine is that in setting it on a space station and not on a starship, uh, there's less opportunity for exploration. It has much less of an adventure-y feel to it.
It's less adventure, which and indeed, one would say Voyager is the exact opposite. They're
Yeah,
cut off from all their family and friends, which is bad in a different way. But every single episode is dangerous, and they
yeah.
need to worry about supplies. They need to worry about communications. They need to worry about every single episode is a very dangerous.
Yeah,
exploration, adventure.
it's kind of interesting that these shows ran concurrently too, because they were doing like the exact opposite thing.
The opposite, yeah.
Um,
And I understand that people can like Deep Space Nine because there's more. You get to dive into more character development with each other.
True. Yeah.
It's this bigger, more established like relationship. But I mean, you can do that on a ship that's exploring too.
Yeah, and my problem was I didn't like most of the characters.
Neither
Uh
did I. You know who I liked? The Ferengi. Like I liked Quark. Who's the guy that talks like this and he's always riding his ass?
oh they
Otto?
Odo, yeah.
Odo. Um,
Yeah, I liked
eh?
him.
I when I got to know him a little bit more, I was like, oh, okay, this guy's pretty fly. Yeah. I appreciate that kind of like, these are the rules, Quark. They're not here for you to bend them. I like their dynamic, right? But
Yeah.
it's like,
I always liked Dr. Bashir too. But
you know what? Yeah, no, yeah, me too.
I never really liked Major Kira all that much. I never really
Eh,
liked Dax. I never really liked Cisco. I thought his
controversial. I like I like Janeway more than Cisco.
yeah.
Uh,
Uh I never liked his son. So many episodes involved his son.
I don't even remember who that
Oh,
is.
Jake Sisko. Yeah. Um,
Right. Okay, yeah.
I didn't like
I'm
Quark when
pulling
I
from like decades old memories, folks. I can you tell I haven't watched this in a long time?
I didn't like Quark when I was younger, but I actually like him a lot more as an adult now.
Oh, same. When I was like younger, I was like, ugh. And now I'm like, oh, this guy's great.
Hmm.
This guy's hilarious.
Um, anyway, so they get to the station, and the station that they chose is this meeting place to do a prisoner exchange.
It's a
Um,
defunct station that's built on the same by the same design as Deep Space Nine.
yeah, it's a derelict Cardassian space station that's the exact same has the exact same schematics of Deep Space Nine, so it gives them kind of the strategic the upper hand.
Home field advantage. But
Yeah.
also, then they don't have to make a new set.
Uh-huh.
My partner pointed that out. It's like, how convenient for set reasons. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, well, what do you, yeah.
So they get to the station and they get set up. Nog is like sets them up in the infirmary, and he keeps calling it base camp, and like no one wants to go. He's all very like gung ho trying to be military commander, and they're
All
like,
right, watch your six. Like
all right,
on the
move
double.
up.
And they kind of look at him and Quark kind of sighs and he's like, 2 bars of latinum to the first person to the infirmary. And then everybody like runs.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he like catches up to Nog and he's like, you need to know how to appeal to your people. These are Ferengi.
yeah. You
Because
shouldn't
when
you
Nog
shouldn't
was like
pay
on the double, they just like stared at him.
Yeah, you shouldn't pay your soldiers to fight. He's like, well, you do when they're Ferengi. Um, so they get to the infirmary. They set everything up. They find that a bunch of the medical equipment is still active, and that will come into play later.
Right. I wondered why. I thought it was just so they could loot
That's what
the
I thought
station.
too. But
Yeah, I was like, oh
it
boy.
it's planting a seed, a plot element for later
Yeah.
that ends
Now
up
that I'm
becoming
rewatching
important.
it.
Yeah. Um,
So they end up barricading themselves in here, kind of, just in case there's like a last stand
well,
situation.
they chose that because there's only one way. There's only two ways in or out.
Yeah.
And so, like, if they had to, they could fortify there.
They could fortify it and then have still have an area they could fall back to if they were overrun.
So the Vorta end up showing up to discuss their terms, and the Vorta commander is fucking Iggy Pop, which
What it is?
yeah, it's Iggy Pop, the main like commander like Vorta dude is Iggy Pop, and I was like, what a weird get,
Wait, what the
and like I feel like that has to be the kind of cameo where it's like Iggy Pop himself really liked Deep Space Nine, so he told his agent to like keep an eye out for like guest roles.
Dude, both of the what's this race again? The same as Kevon.
The Vorta.
Vorta. I was gonna say, like, both of these, we only see two
Yeah.
in this episode, but they're so different and they're so fucking likable, even though they're bad guys.
Yeah. uh,
I huh. I had no idea. I actually thought you were just making a joke or something. But
no, it's actually Iggy Pop.
I
Because I looked him up because I'm like, why does that guy look and sound? It was specifically his
thank you.
voice.
It
He
was his
sounded
voice. I
so
was like,
familiar to
who
me.
is this guy? Yeah.
So I looked him up while I was watching the episode, and I'm like, wow, Iggy Pop. Crazy. What a
I'm
what a
so
what a wild
Iggy
cameo.
Iggy, he's got a whole bunch of Jar Jar Binks. Dang it. What's the lizard the dragon people.
Yeah, I don't know.
The jar, you said it earlier, but I can't
Oh,
remember.
the Gem Hadar.
Gem Mahadar, the
Right.
Jafar. Uh,
The
and they're
Jafal.
basically they're basically part of the Dominion, and they're the ground soldiers, and there's like 50 of them there.
Yeah.
And somehow Quark manages to convince him, because he's so sure he has the upper hand, to make most of them like exit through deep space,
Yeah.
through warp, to warp away.
Yeah. So the deal that he brokers is that they're going to exchange Keyvan for for
For
their
Moogie.
for Moogie. Thank you. They're going to exchange Keyvan for Moogie, and Iggy Pop is like, uh, well, and they convince him that all but two of your Gem Hadar have to leave the station. And he's
And
like, well,
he's
why?
like,
He's like, well, why? Iggy Pop's like, well, why would we do that? And they're like, well, because we'll kill Keyvan. And he's
and
like,
he's like, okay,
we're gonna kill him anyway.
we're gonna kill that asshole anyway. And then Moogie will be dead too. You don't have any cards to play here. And then Quark is like, but I bet you're really interested in what kind of secrets he might have given the Federation.
Yeah,
And that's probably why you want him alive.
yeah.
And he's like, okay, oh, okay, Ferengi, we'll play your like little game.
Okay, I hate Ferengi. We all do, but I see why you guys have reputations for being shrewd negotiators. All right, we'll do it.
And you know what? I was expecting the entire time when it was like, okay, we're doing the exchange. Haha, we have you surrounded. I was expecting Iggy to be like, I lied. And just like 50 dudes like pop up that we're hiding. Nope. Apparently these guys are more trustworthy to their oath than for Ferengi are.
And so the 50 or so Gem Hadar that took off in their ship, they have to leave and stay away for 3 days.
Yeah.
And so Iggy Pop and Keyvan and his two cronies, like they have to like chill on the station for 3 days to give Quark and the gang time to escape.
Yeah, and good for them. Yeah. So when the exchange happens, they can still peace out.
Yeah. So shortly thereafter, back at base camp, Rom is like accidentally is like, oh ho ho, I can't believe it, we're gonna be rich, 50 bars of gold-plated latinum. And then we get a very classic scene of people bickering about, wait, he told me it was 20. Yeah, you told me it was 20.
And Quark is like, oh, my brother meant 20. No, you said 50.
Yeah. And Nog gets involved, and he's like, yeah, it's totally 20. And they're like, you guys are all like just conspiring together, like we don't believe you. And so one of them gets mad and like
It's
fires
the weapons dealer, the dumb one.
yeah. He gets mad and fires a phaser, and like they jump out of the way, and Keyvan
Keevan's
gets
just sitting there like eye rolling.
yeah behind them, and he ends up getting shot
Right in the fucking chest,
right in the
man.
fucking chest, and his last words are, "I hate Ferengi."
He falls on his like knees and like looks down at his own chest. Kudos to this actor. I really like the way he speaks. Like
Yeah.
he has a certain poshness to it, and he's like, I hate Ferengi. And he just falls over dead. And I'm like,
He has this kind of annoyed indifference
I
to him.
love that. I love that so much. That's why I was sad that he died. Like
Yeah.
his annoyed indifferent and the way he like the way the actor speaks.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think what was it? Nog is like has like a tricorder, is examining him, and he's like, "Okay, this man is definitely dead."
Yeah, Nog, it jumps ahead. Maybe it's like 20 minutes. We don't know. It comes back after a commercial break, but he's like scanning. And when everyone else is talking and worrying, Nog comes over after a long time and he's like, yep, this man is dead.
And Quark is like, "Thanks, Doctor Nog." So they're like, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?" Like our plan just went up in smoke. Um, and
You
at
can't have a
one
prisoner exchange without a prisoner.
And then at one point, Keyvan's corpse like swings his arm over, and they're like, "Oh, he's still alive." And he's like, "No, no, it's not. It's like the neural transmitters, like sending electrical signals to his body, or yada yada yada." And they're like, "Wait, that's it. Find as many of those doohickeys as possible."
At this moment, I was like, no, they're they're not.
And
Are
this is
are
where
they?
this is where they're gonna weekend at Bernie's at.
Is it weekend at Bernie's time? No, they would never. Are they? Yeah, they do.
The
They
Quark,
do.
so Quark goes outside of base camp
I
and
love it.
meets with Iggy Pop, and Iggy Pop's like, "All right, let's do the exchange. Let's get the show on the road." And he's like, yeah, my securities officer just needs a few minutes." And he's like, "No, we've been ready for like an hour. Like, let's get the show on the road." And he's like, "We'll get the show on the road after my securities guy finishes up what he's doing. He just needs
He needs
5 minutes."
check the space chemtrails to make sure your guys have left or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Like some sort of, oh, he's scanning the ship to see if there are any biosignatures of the Jem'Hadar hiding.
And Iggy Pop is like, oh, it. He says something akin to like, "Oh, it's a shame you don't trust me," which I'm like, wow, he actually seems kind of hurt by that.
Yeah. And he was like, okay, fine, kill her. And then Moogie's like, get Quark, give them what they want.
Yeah,
And he's like,
um,
oh no, I intend to.
yeah. We just need 5 more minutes. My securities officer
Just
just needs to
chill, my dude.
just needs to do his thing.
And I thought the Marine were annoying.
A-
And
And
there's
so
there's a certain part where they're like, it's like, oh come on, man. Like, don't you have like a mom? Like you understand how it is. And he's like, I was cloned. And then Moogie's like, well, that explains a lot.
so they do the prisoner exchange after they've like after they've propped up the corpse of this dude with like a bunch of these doohickeys, and
Can't they
Quark
just let him die?
and Nog straight up has like a tricorder and is using
He's
with as like a
hiding around a corner
he's like remote controlling this guy with like these neural like transmitters.
like a fucking RC.
Yeah, and this was kind of horrifying to me. And they're making this guy like lifeless corpse like awkwardly just like walk and
Excuse me.
shamble
Thought I had muted
shamble
my cough.
toward.
Sorry. Yeah. Isn't that a little
It's horrifying to me. It it's
To me, it's
remote.
hilarious, but I understand some people. There's a sanctity in death, and you don't fuck with people's bodies.
It's they basically made a remote controlled zombie,
That's
which
why it's like the guy has already he's already had to hear your bickering for the last day. He's already had to die.
this is the final indignity.
Like at this point, I was shocked that his pants didn't like fall down while he was walking
Oh,
down the
I
hallway.
forgot to mention they Quark was like, we're gonna move to the meeting place to like airlock 9 and or airlock number 3, and he's like, and Iggy Pop's
Iggy,
like
yeah.
is like, what's wrong with the atrium, which was the original meeting place, and Quark is like, nothing, but my ship is right by airlock 3.
So he just levels with him. He's like, but my ship's right there.
So
So Iggy
kind
Pop's like,
kind of wanna Amscray once the exchange goes down.
and then Iggy's like, that's fair.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, so back during the prisoner exchange, their mom is like walking along this like long corridor.
It's
The
that kind of like movie trope where when they do the exchange, you walk. It's usually a bridge, like
yeah,
it,
yeah,
right? But in this case, it's a hallway.
and they're walking toward one another, and like
Nog is controlling the corpse of Keith.
yeah, his remote control zombie starts like shambling the wrong way, and they're like, "Oh, fix it," and he's like, "Oh, I can't."
I can't, I can't, dude. This isn't like this isn't like driving a car.
And once Ishka like finally gets to the other side, the corpse of Kivan like shambles like right into a wall and just keeps
Well, yeah,
going.
even halfway through, Iggy Pop is like, "My God, Kevon, the horrors you must have went through. What have they done? What,
What have they
Kevon? What have
done?
they done?" Because he's assuming they fucked him up or they've done something to him. But as he gets closer, like you said, he just kind of like starts bumping into a wall over and over, and it's like, oh, the jig is thoroughly coming to a close.
Yeah, and so they start firing. They start firing on one another. The other Ferengi very
I
quickly
love this. The
take out.
secret wall like opens, and Lek is like, ha, and he gets to use his fucking knife. He throws his knife at like one of the Jem'Hadar, and then the other side of the wall opens, and the other two are there. And at this point, it's like shooting fish in a barrel,
Yeah,
right? These were like faux walls, or the walls just slid open, and they miss a whole bunch, but some of them hit. It's like this, like Star Wars clone troopers. Eventually, if there's enough of them, they're gonna hit you.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe. And yeah, Iggy Pop kind of like ducks during all of like this chaos,
yeah.
and his bodyguards are taken out.
Yeah, he's the only one who ends up living. And at one point, Quark is like to Nog, he's like, "Okay, can you just turn him off now?" And like Nog is like kind of laughing, and he's like, "I can't." As
I can't. And
as
as
his
the
body
camera
just
pans, Kevon's like,
still like shambling into the like right into the wall.
and they're like, well, we got Iggy Pop.
What do we do with him?
Win-win. Now we
And
still have a Dominion prisoner, and this guy's more valuable than the
yeah,
last guy. And we saved Moogie, right?
yeah,
That'll make them good with the Federation because they'll hand him back over. And it's like,
right.
yeah, you think the Dominion's ever going to negotiate a prisoner exchange now?
Well,
Like,
at least they can potentially extract information from this guy. Although it is in their culture that when they're captured, they must commit suicide. So you're not going to get anything out of them anyway.
yeah, I'm
It,
sure he's
it,
nothing like Kivan, and he's definitely going to take his own life as soon as possible, based on him ducking from.
uh, yeah. Anyway,
And when
so
when they're taking him, like, because they're taking everyone back, they didn't lose anybody. They're
yeah,
taking him back onto the shuttle, and he's like, and before he says anything, Quark is like, yes, yes, you hate Ferengi.
And I think his mom, Quark's mom, tells him that the Grand Nagus will be proud of him or something like that,
Yeah.
and that she is too. And that's that's the episode. The episode fades out with Kiva-N's body, like just still continuing walking into the
Fuck.
bulkhead.
It
This
does.
poor guy.
Right? Because it's malfunction. Nog doesn't shut off it. And presuming they just like leave, they left him there with like the
Yeah,
little device and the diodes still activating. It's kind of horrifying to imagine that like an
I mean, eventually,
indeterminate amount of time, this guy's like a walking zombie.
eventually he's going to decompose, and presumably these things will stop working. But
His knees will give out eventually, right?
yeah, and then he'll just be like rolling, twitching across the floor. I
What a
told you,
way.
it's horrifying. This shit kind of horrified me.
I like
Anyway,
how it ends on that comical note, and it's like, wait a second, that's not okay.
anyway,
We're not doing anything with the body.
Cal, you just caught a random episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Are you going to tune in next week?
You know what? I am. I'm suspicious that this may be one of the better episodes, but based on this episode, you can beam me up.
Well, according to Wikipedia, Geek.com recommended this episode as essential watching for their abbreviated Star Trek Deep Space Nine binge watch guide.
Oh,
So this episode's considered essential viewing.
I agree.
I agree
Me,
too.
the Star Trek expert.
I will I would certainly tune in next week after this. Although I suspect well, actually, I already know. Not every episode of Deep Space Nine is like this. No. Anyway, that was episode 29 of the Lasercomb Podcast. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/lasercomb, LEZORCOMB. We're at the $5 and up tier. You get preamble audio of me and Cal kind of shooting the shit for this and all the various shows we do week in and week out. You also get a monthly-ish commentary track. Looks like based on Patreon poll, the next commentary track is going to be for 1986's Highlander. That was the winner.
Oh, it's happening.
There can be only one, except there were 5 of them, and
I was gonna say there could be only 5.
there were 5 of them, and 2 TV shows and a
2 live
cartoon
actions and a cartoon.
and an anime, which the anime is actually like probably the best sequel. Weirdly enough,
I didn't know there
it's
was an
really
anime.
it's really hard to find now. Like it came out in 2007. It's called Highlander Vengeance. It's actually really good. It's the best of the like sequels.
Holy shit, okay.
But it's so hard to find. Like it's super out of print, and it was like almost immediately. But if you can track it down, it's definitely worth watching.
Huh.
Anyway,
We've got a Kino's Journey situation with that, it seems.
I've never been able to find it on anything. Anyway, at the $10 tier, you get to pick a show for us to review a random episode of, just like we do on each and every episode. We've done several Patreon sponsored episodes of this podcast at this point, and we got some more coming up in just a couple months here. So you also get our news and current events program, Lasercomb Tonight. So patreon.com/lasercomb if you want to get in on that. Social media, go to facebook.com/lasercomb or go to Twitter and follow me at lasercomb. And Cal, they can follow you at?
You can follow me at NeoCal, NEO_KAL.
We're going to continue on with our Star Trek themed month, and next up in line is Star Trek Voyager. So we're gonna
Please be a decent episode.
we're gonna share a screen here. All right, how many episodes did Voyager have? 172. All right. One random number is between 1 and 172, and here we go. And we're going to land on 117 again. We landed
Wait,
on 117 for Star Trek: The Next Generation.
yeah. Was it exactly 17? It was.
It was 117. Yeah. Do we want to cheat and do a reroll?
Um, it be well, technically random is still random.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Uh,
Unless we glance at the episode and it's bad.
Uh,
uh, that is season 5, episode 23, 1159.
you're right.
Janeway.
If it's the same number, I guess that we should re-roll.
All right, we're gonna do it. We're breaking the rules. We're gonna re-roll. All right, here we go. Just because I 2 Star Trek shows, both with episode 117. Nah, let's not do that. All right, what are we gonna land on now? 12.
Whoa, we're going back.
We're going all the way back to season 1.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Two episode 117s. We can mix it up more than that.
Heroes and Demons. The holographic doctor must rescue crew members who were turned into light energy in a holodeck simulation of Beowulf. You know what? I'm good with that. That sounds fun because I like the doctor.
Holy shit! There we go.
All right.
Oh, the doctor. I'm pulling out my signed autograph of what's his name? His name is
Robert Picardo.
Robert Picardo, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm always like it's close to Picard.
He ended up actually joining the final season. Well, he had a recurring role in Stargate SG-1, and he ended up joining the final season of Stargate Atlantis as a main cast member. So
Right. That was that made me want to actually give that a shot.
well, I do want to do a Stargate themed month sometime down the road for this podcast, so maybe we'll land on one of those episodes. Anyway, that was episode 29 of the Laser Column podcast. And until next week, I've been one of your hosts, Lieutenant Commander Siege.
And I'm your other host, Padawan NeoCal.
And until next time, 2 to beam up.
Reboot.
2 to beam up.
Maximize.
2 to
I
beam
am
up.
transformed. Nothing.
There's 2 bars of gold-plated latinum in it for you.